Hello everyone, my name is Mandeep Singh Sandhu. I work as the product manager for App ID at Palo Alto Networks, and I'm here to talk about how to safely enable SaaS applications, taking the example of Microsoft Office 365, and how App ID, specifically custom App IDs, can help you achieve that. So with App ID, you get visibility. And once you get visibility, you can use that visibility to have control. This control lets you safely enable applications, safely enable the granular functions inside different applications. Now, when it comes to SaaS applications, a lot of these SaaS applications are offered either in consumer licenses or they are offered in enterprise licenses. Especially with Office 365, there's a lot of licenses that you can have. For consumer licenses, there's the personal, there's the home version, and for the enterprise licenses, there's the E1, E3, and E5. When any enterprise is enabling Office 365, what they would like is visibility into what kind of access is there to Office 365, and then they would like to control of who can access Office 365 using what type of credentials. And this is where App ID can be really helpful when using custom apps. So we released a few months ago a couple of App IDs to achieve this. One of them is called Office 365 Enterprise Access. And the other one is called Office 365 Consumer Access. So these two App IDs combined with the existing set of App IDs that we already have for Office 365 can give you this extremely granular level of control regarding how the access is made to Office 365. So let's imagine this is the Office 365 cloud, out of which Office 365 services are provided. We have an enterprise account here. We have users here of the type of user at acme.org. And in this enterprise account, you also have user like user@gmail.com. The Palo Alto firewall is sitting here. So all these different users, when they're trying to access Office 365, they can log in from any one of these usernames. However, what the enterprise want, they want to allow access to only sanctioned enterprise accounts for Office 365. So one of the first use cases that you can go ahead and solve with this is to block the consumer access to Office 365 services. And that is very straightforward. We have this App ID called Office 365 Consumer Access. And there's another one called Office 365 Enterprise Access. So in your security policy base, when you configure just the enterprise access App ID, the users that are going to Office 365 services using your corporate credentials will be identified as Office 365 Enterprise Access on the firewall. Since it will be the only App ID allowed in the policy, they will be able to get access to Office 365 services. However, if there are other users in your population which try to access Office 365 using their personal accounts, they will actually be denied by the firewall because all these attempts of accessing Office 365 will be recognized as Office 365 Consumer Access. So this is the easiest use case you can solve with just using these predefined app IDs that we have released around Office 365. A typical policy base will contain these app IDs, but it will also contain the existing set of Office 365 and MS OneDrive app IDs that have already been there for a while. Well, once you do that, customers would want even more visibility, because it's entirely possible that you have partners coming into your organization who want to have access to their instance of Office 365 so that they can collaborate with you. So going from that point on, you can actually start using the concept of custom app IDs. So for using the concept of custom app IDs, how it works. You will basically create a custom app ID for your sanctioned user accounts. So any user population that's logging in to Office 365 using at acme.org or at on microsoft.acme.org will be identified using this custom app. So we can call this custom app as O365 Acme. Once this custom app ID is created, you can actually use it in your policy, and you'll have visibility, and you can control only access to these. If you have another organization that you want to allow access to, so imagine if you have someone visiting from a partner company called Company Y, and their login to Office 365 is company.y.org. This can be created as another custom app ID on the firewall and referenced in policies. So with this use case, you'll be able to control and have visibility on who you really want to allow access to Office 365 at any given time. With the first use case, you have been able to block access to any consumer version of Office 365 from being used. And this concept of custom app ID and how it is used to control access to Office 365 can be further extended to the point where you can control cross-tenant sharing across different sanctioned users of Office 365. So if the users from acme.org want to access a folder which is being shared by someone from company.y.org, you can selectively allow or disallow this using URL filtering along with the app ID-based policies. So this gives you at a very high level on how you can use custom app ID along with the pre-existing app IDs of enterprise and consumer access to safely enable access to Office 365. You can block access to consumer accounts. You can allow access to sanctioned enterprise accounts. You can allow access to more than one sanctioned enterprise account, not just yours, but for partners who are visiting and working with you. And then you can also use URL filtering along with app ID to control cross-tenant sharing of folders across Office 365. One of the most popular applications that is used for doing this cross-tenant sharing is either SharePoint Online or it is MS OneDrive. And it is very important to control this cross-tenant sharing because there is an exposure risk here to data theft or data leakage. One of the other things I wanted to talk about also in general on this concept of controlling access to SaaS applications using app ID and custom app ID is that it gives you control on the firewall to do visibility and control. So everything is under your control because everything is done here. This is interesting because of late we have seen some SaaS vendors have come up with other ideas For example, Google, for instance, has come up with the idea of header insertion to do the same level of distinction between enterprise and consumer access. However, with this kind of approach, what happens is that the control for controlling these applications, be it Google applications or be it Office 365 or any SaaS applications, the control directly shifts to the vendor that is providing the services. So the control moves from here to here, which is not a problem as long as the only thing you want is control. However, customers also want visibility along with control. They also want the fact that if they have control, they want to understand by looking at the firewall logs, by looking at the firewall, that what kind of users are trying to get to what kind of different resources, and how can they use these controls over a period of time to successively improve their security posture. One very important thing that has to be understood, that a lot of these SaaS applications are offered under SSL. Pretty much all SaaS applications are tunneled under SSL. Getting any control to the point where you want visibility into either the payloads that are going through the application, or you want the access control of enterprise versus consumer, you will have to enable decryption on the Palo Alto Networks firewall. So one of the prerequisites here is that you need to enable decryption for this solution to work. Once you have decryption along with these custom app IDs and the security policies configured, you'll be able to achieve all these goals. And you'll have the control on the firewall, and this will not be a control that has shifted to the vendor completely, which would completely erode visibility. This is why we recommend that you use the Palo Alto Networks firewalls to write custom app IDs and write policies along those lines to have visibility and control in your hands versus shifting it to another place.